I don't I don't even know where to begin. I just I turned on the mic so that way when I rant to myself, I don't know, maybe I could help some people feel as if they aren't alone, you know? So, what I'm going to be talking about, it's not a fun topic. So, if you clicked on this video thinking, oh, hey, maybe this will be a hot take or something more entertaining, it's not. I I don't know what I want from this channel. Um, which is why I'm doing this, kind of. I'll explain later. Yeah, this is literally just a rant. I don't know if I'm gonna edit any of this, and I apologize. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm too distraught, I guess. But for those of you who don't know the situation in Afghanistan, I'll sum it up very briefly and poorly, and I highly recommend you do your own research to find out what is happening over there and get it from multiple sources because everyone has biases, everyone has different takes on it, and then they all look at the situation and then project their own biases onto it so that way you can or to try and convince you that their thoughts are correct to whatever varying degree. But basically, the situation in Afghanistan was Western Allied forces invaded back in, I believe it was 2001, um, after 9/11, to my understanding at least. And then from that, they they went there to take out the Taliban. Taliban, Taliban, I don't know. Um, to take to take out the Taliban, and because the Taliban were harboring the people and basically helping the people that did 9/11, which, if I remember correctly, was Al Qaeda. So that's why that was the excuse to go there in the first place. Then, after Al Qaeda was dealt with, then it turned into nation building and helping them develop a democracy and all these things that, depending on your political thoughts and affiliations, you either think we're, hey, that's good, democracy's good, women actually having rights. I hear that's a good thing. That is a good thing, to be clear. Um, so and that happened, but then a lot of people on the other side of the aisle say like, yeah, it's good that we help the people, of course, but if we're drowning back home, we've got issues back home, we should deal with those first, then we can go to the rest of the world and help them out, possibly. But there are also some people who are even more extreme, saying just help the people at home, the rest of the world doesn't matter. Just yeah, I don't know. I I don't know where I lie. I don't know. I was raised on World War II movies, so anything that involves stopping the evil people, I'm doing quotations which you can't see, but anything that involves that and helping people who, through no fault of their own, are suffering, I'm typically a fan of that. Because those were the stories that I heard from like age like 2, because I got raised on war movies with my grandfather. Um, so yeah, I'm typically a fan of helping people, but at the same time, I can understand like, hey, why are we sending so much money to this country when we could desperately use it back at home? But that's a whole other thing. That's just setting up this. Um, for those of you who don't know, which is probably all of you, considering this is probably going to be the first actual video on the channel, I'm Canadian, so I'm gonna be looking at this from a Canadian perspective and what our government specifically is doing. I won't touch on the American stuff because ah, that's the best way I can describe it. Um, but I saw today this morning, and like I'm no scholar, I'm no genius. I spent my day today in the blistering 40-degree heat, uh, digging holes and putting posts in said holes. Like I'm not that smart. I I'm lucky if I'm average, but I don't know. I have a mic and the internet, so I'm gonna sorry, notification. I'm gonna put my thoughts on the internet because I don't know what to do anymore. I read this morning that Canada's emergency evacuation plan, I believe that's the official title for it, has been canceled. It doesn't exist anymore. Now, what does this mean? I'll go very briefly. Basically, it was a hyper focused plan to evacuate as many people from Afghanistan as possible. And why might they want to be evacuated? Because the Taliban is back, and basically have control over almost the entire country. In fact, the entire country, to my understanding, but most specifically Kabul. You've probably heard that name in the news a lot. That's their capital city. Um, yeah, we I saw that the evacuation plan had been canceled, and I was filled with unmatched anger, sorrow, uh, just it's one of the first times, if not the first time, that I've truly been disappointed in my country. Now, like, look, I Canada's done a lot of bad things, um, and everyone watching this should know a few. And if you don't know any, and you think Canada is this perfect country that treats everyone nicely and there are absolutely no problems whatsoever, I encourage you to look into it because you can be proud of your country while still realizing that hey, that was messed up and horrible. We need to fix that. We need to be recognize it and be better than that and promise and swear to never go back to what we did, and help those that were affected. Um, but in my lifetime, at least, I've never been ashamed of my country and my country's current. There, I'll put it that way. I've never been ashamed of my country's current actions. Um, we haven't always been the best. We're in a lot of debt. That's not exactly great, but I'm also not ashamed of being in debt. It's scary to a young guy who would like to buy a house someday, but Lord knows that's not going to be possible. And the reason why is because we gave up. I don't even know how to put into words what my thoughts are on this subject truly. We we we're not the biggest country by any means. Our population is like a tenth of the US. Like we're not that big. We got a lot of land, but not a lot of people in said land. And if you don't have a lot of people, you're not gonna have the highest GDP, the most technology, yada yada yada. So as impactful as us Canadians who are very proud of our country might be, um, as strong of a country as we think we have, it's quite small. Um, but still, I expected more from my country. Yeah, that I think that's the best way to put it. was I was told all these stories as a kid, how we fought the Nazis, and we didn't, like, of course we went to war with Britain and the other allies, not the states. They came later though. I'll talk about that soon. But like we had allies, but we went to war because, in my opinion, and keep in mind, sorry once again, keep in mind my biases. My nana's Polish, so I'm quite biased on this. Um, I am incredibly thankful for Canada's involvement within the Second World War. Um, and because I don't want to think of what a world would look like where that didn't happen. Because small as we may be, we did play an important role. And now in Afghanistan, our evacuation plan got canceled because at least Trudeau's reasoning that he gave or seemed to give was he said something along the lines of the operation, which was spearheaded, like the main people behind it were the Americans. Since the Americans, I guess, stopped or just said other allies can't, I don't know. I haven't done too much research into this. I I had this whole video on Trudeau that I spent like weeks researching on or researching for and editing and recording and all of this. Um, but this is more pressing and this is more important um, than just going over old policies of his, which haven't really changed at all since 2019. So just because the Americans say, "Yep, no, sorry, I can't help you," um, I guess the evacuation plan is over, which is a horrific statement in of itself. Just because the Americans say that, instantly, Canada just goes, "Oh, well, guess guess that's that." Cool. I'm gonna go back to campaigning to be reelected. That really, really, that's the reaction that our country has. And hey, I'm not solely blaming Trudeau. I haven't seen anything from Aaron O'Toole, from Jagmeet Singh. I haven't seen any headlines or anything like that saying like we must, like, how dare we leave these Canadian citizens in Afghanistan. I haven't seen anything like that. It's all just been, hey, vote for me this coming election. I don't care about the election right now. I really don't. And I'm someone in their 20s who's obsessed with politics. I sh- I should be living and breathing this campaign or campaign trail slash election. I don't care at all. I care about the millions of people suffering in Afghanistan and soon to be suffering 10 times worse than they already are. Because here's something that I didn't know until I looked it up. And I so you might not know this either. Um, the population of Afghanistan is 39 million people. For reference, Canada is 37.8 or something like that million people. We got a lot more land, but Afghanistan has just as many people. So when you hear about Afghanistan, don't think about this far off country in the middle of nowhere that only has like, it's only like 4 million people. Like, yes, it's horrible what's happening over there, but it's not like affecting that many people. No. When you hear about how the Taliban, a group of people who have supported terrorists and are still recognized as a terrorist organization, in my opinion, rightfully so, because of how they treat people. When you hear that they've taken over the country, imagine the entirety of Canada, with 2 million to spare, being ruled by a terrorist dictatorship. That's the reality of Afghanistan. And Kabul, the city that absolutely everyone is talking about because that's the most important one. That's where the evacuation plan was happening from. That city has, I looked this up later or earlier. I believe 4.4 million people, and for reference, that's Toronto plus Montreal, two of Canada's biggest cities. In fact, I think they are the two biggest cities in Canada put together, is currently going through this hell. And I I don't know. I just I saw the news today that the evacuations had stopped. And within two hours later, I saw the bombings, of course. And if you haven't seen or heard, there were two suicide bombing attacks, I guess is the right word. Just two suicide bombings. This one I did look up because I want to be respectful. Um, as of I'm recording this at 10:07 on Thursday, according to ctvnews.ca, the attack has killed at least 60 Afghans and 13 U.S. troops, once again, as of 10:07 and CTV News. To all of their families, to all of their friends, to anyone who knew them, and to themselves, I have nothing but apology and condolence and sympathy for what they are going through. I cannot dare claim empathy. I have no idea what that situation must be like, but it's important, even if you've never thought of Afghanistan before, taking a moment and recognizing what's happening, and at very least, if you're religious, say a prayer for them, and if you're not, then just hope hope for them, because what's happening in Afghanistan is, it's terrifying. I'm really young. I haven't lived through that much, but easily in my 20 years, this is gotta be some of the the darkest and most concerning and saddening things. One of the most saddening things, if not the, that has happened in the world. And Canada's response? We have an election coming up. Yeah. Aaron O'Toole posting a picture of his dog, Justin Trudeau, talking about the housing plans and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm being selfish because I care more about the foreign policy. And since I care about that policy, I think they should be focusing on that. Meanwhile, there are, what, over 500,000 people in Canada who lost their jobs and probably really need to know what's going to happen with housing and jobs and all these other policies that people are talking about. It's like, I understand that's important, but the fact that Trudeau's best response was, yeah, Biden said that it's done, so it's done. Whoops. Canada can't do anything. Even though in World War II, Canada joined September of 1939, the US December of 1941. Yeah, just a little bit late to the party, guys. And that's something I'm very proud of as a Canadian. I am very proud that as soon as it was deemed, I don't know if reasonable is the right word, but like as soon as it was deemed something where we actually could do something, as soon as that happened, we were there. Yes, we are going to stand up for these people's rights because what is happening to them is atrocious. To bring it full circle, I guess, I grew up with those stories, and now the stories that I'll tell my kids or my grandkids is when the people of Afghanistan needed Canada most, we said, our allies aren't 1000% behind us, so I guess you'll just have to make do in this country that has been overrun by terrorists. I don't know. That isn't a fun story that I'm gonna tell my grandkids proudly about my country. And I don't like that feeling. Um so yeah, I made this video just because I need to get that off my chest, talk about it out loud, work through it out loud instead of just festering in my head as I dig through 4 feet of dirt. So yeah. As stated earlier, I made a video going through Trudeau's policies. It sounds completely different. My voice isn't as raspy because I'm not as tired. For starters, my voice won't always sound like this. I sound like a smoker right now, I'm sure. Nah, usually it's much more nasally and annoying. Um, so yeah, I might upload that one, but I don't know. I want to upload things that I think are important to this channel. That's what I want to do because I'm constantly listening to the news and reading the news and trying to pick it apart. Um, and I hear all these important stories and I think that's really important and I I have these ideas or these things I want to say, but then I get so scared about doing research and making sure everything I say is exactly correct. Um, so if you have any recommendations, like if you'd rather just me sort of spitball ranting or venting about the political topic of the day, or if you'd prefer the like months worth of research, weeks worth of recording and editing, like really put together videos where like I'll get the stats and the facts and all that sort of stuff. If you'd prefer that, then I can do that, and maybe I'll do both. Maybe I'll work 90-hour work weeks or something like that, as if I don't work enough at my construction job. Um, but yeah, that Trudeau video might come out sometime, but I needed to bring attention to this because this is important, and this will be important, not just until what the election is held September 20th. It's like any election videos, they're important, very important. Be as educated as you can be when it comes to politics. Um, like they're important, but after September 20th, not really. This this is important because this is big and it's something that we're going to be telling future generations about. And I am hoping so badly that Canada turns this around and helps the people of Afghanistan. We don't need to nation build. We don't need to spend billions of dollars building them schools and roads and all that, but just stop the monsters that are currently or have currently taken over that country. Just I don't know. I don't know. I'm rambling as if this whole thing hasn't been rambling. But yeah. May may every soul that lost their life today rest in peace. Once again, I send my condolences to all of those involved. And we'll we'll see what Canada does from here. Dear God, I hope for better things.